Hello everyone, I'm back again with a new video. I'm apologizing right up front because I haven't been making these videos as fast as I thought. Medical school has been a complete time sink, obviously, but this summer I was really involved with some research at a hospital here in the city that I am studying in. And I was really fortunate enough to get that research position, and it did cost me a good amount of my summer, but honestly, it was a really good experience. And I'm going to kind of go through everything that I've been doing as a first year and now I'm doing as a second year and what I've learned. And I'm just kind of trying to distill this into a video that you guys can actually understand what I went through and maybe take some pearls from this in terms of what you can do if you're going into medical school, or maybe you're a first year or a second year right now thinking, the different ways to study. This is just how I did it personally. As always, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing on these videos, what I can do. Obviously, I'm a really small channel right now, so any constructive criticism that you have, greatly appreciated. So let's get started. My schedule, so I usually wake up around 8 or 9 a.m. This is really dependent on how much studying I do the night before. I take some time to watch the daily news. I'm a political junkie. I love politics. I love the news. I want to know what's going on every day. That's just kind of how I am. But I don't eat breakfast. I haven't ate breakfast since college. This has kind of been a personal thing. So oftentimes I tell people, you could just eat breakfast and watch stuff if you want to do that. But I take 30 minutes to wake up, to fully wake up, right? Once I wake up, I'm not trying to do Anki cards right away. I just want to, just kind of chill a little bit, collect myself, and then go ahead and start on my Anking reviews. This can take me anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. Sometimes it can even take me more than 4 hours, depending how many cars I do. Am I that focused that day? Was I not sleeping well the night before? There's just a lot of variables that go around with that. But I want to do all my Anki reviews before I even touch any new material. Because if you stay relevant and stay on top of your Anking reviews or Anki reviews, you're gonna have a great retention, especially important for boards, and it's really important in your in-house exams because I've noticed a lot of times there's a lot of overlap, at least at my school where I'm at. There's a lot of overlap between blocks, and they structure blocks in the way that one block will actually lead to the next block for organ systems, right? So if you're doing renal, a lot of times you'll have endocrine before that or renal before that as well. It just depends on how you do it. But I love to stay on top of that because obviously a lot of these cards that I'm about to tell you, a lot of these tips revolve around Anking, which is a pre-made board deck. But as an aside, I go and have lunch. I really want to make time for my fiance. She's an absolutely wonderful person, and it's just nice to kind of break off the monotony of actually just studying all day. It's good to take some me time. So I make lunch with her, or she'll make lunch, or we'll just buy lunch if we really don't have time. But I really just make it a point to at least have 30 minutes to an hour just to eat lunch. We usually like to watch a show together while we're eating, or we might not watch one and just talk and whatever. But just getting an hour in for lunch is great. It really breaks it up for you. And then after that, I've done all my reviews. I'm now fully rested from my nice little lunch. I go ahead and start on class material. I'll watch lectures that my professors put out or any asynchronous materials that they put out, and then I'll unsuspend the Anking deck, which I'll actually talk about later, per the lecture watch. So whatever lecture I find, I unsuspend the cards, and I'll actually tell you a little later how I do that. But if I find that a lecture has a lot of overlap with Boards and Beyond, which is a board material by Dr. Ryan, he's an absolute great board prep material. It's also really helpful for your in-house exams because he really does a good job of explaining anything that you need to know. And I feel like he's got videos for everything. Obviously not everything, but he's an absolutely amazing source. And honestly, he saved me a lot during neuro. So during our neurology block. Pathoma is the absolute, in my opinion, absolute gold standard for pathology, especially on boards. Pathoma's chapters 1 through 3, I hear, are the most high yield topic for step one by far. This is obviously what I've heard. I'm obviously a second year, I haven't taken my boards yet, I haven't sat for my board yet for USMLE step one, but Sketchy is also a really good resource. I use it mostly for micro and for pharmacology. I'm going to go a little into depth about why I only use it for those, but I'll show you that in a minute. And then I'll do those instead of the lectures where they overlap. unsuspend those cards and start those cards. I will take a dinner break. Just it's either 30 minutes to an hour. It's usually more than an hour or up to an hour. But I really just try to make it at least an hour so that I can kind of get another little break from studying. And it's really just so I can pace myself. You don't want to just sit all day and study because you're not going to be able to do that. No human being is designed to just sit there hours on end just studying. So it's really nice to just kind of give yourself some blocks. Again, you don't have to follow this. This is just how I've done it. After my dinner, I resume my class materials. I finish any of the new Anki cards that Anki cards that I've just unsuspended, and I continue watching any board materials that I have. And usually, I'll watch the in-house lecture after, kind of pick up any minute details that my professors have, because oftentimes your professors will throw in like these weird, out of left field tangents, or not really tangents, but things that really aren't board testable, but will be on your in-house exams. So I really make a card for that for my class decks. I usually end around 11 or 10 to 11 each night, but I've been known to go around 1 a.m. if it's an exam week. So as far as M1 is concerned, Anking Step 2 V10 is the most up-to-date version right now, which is August 2021. Uh, so whichever version is up to date at present time, definitely get that version because this is the absolute best. It has the Zanki um, deck, which is one of the best decks ever made. So shout out to whoever Zenki is. Nobody knows who it is, and it's undetermined person. Whoever he, she, they are absolute godsend to the medical student community. I swear to God, I can't thank them enough, and I can't thank Anking enough. Who I will drop his uh, videos in the description below. Make sure to watch these. Just kind of get yourself acquainted with Anki. Almost everybody that I talk to, they usually use Anki in some variation. But the biggest thing for M1 is Anki image occlusion cards. And if you don't know what those are, I will again reference that you go to Anking because he definitely gives a lot of good advice about how to make these IO cards. But just a real quick thing about it, there's a mask that covers the little thing that you are trying to study. So, for instance, here we've got the limbic system in the central nervous system, obviously in the brain, and it's covering a bunch of the portions of the limbic system. So, the limbic system is everything that you see colored here. However, if I want to understand, or if I just want to rote memorize and brute force memorize all of these structures here, I would have a mask above all of these little definitions. So, for instance, right here, you're seeing the nuclei right here, the hypothalamic nuclei. I would mask this and say, boom, I have all of these masks. I don't know what any of these are right now. When I hit the space bar, this red one will actually unmask and show me what it's pointing to. So these are image occlusion cards, absolutely godsend for anatomy because anatomy is really just rote memorization. Either you know it or you don't. However, for origin, insertions, innervations, and your actions of each muscle, you're going to want to make closed deletions. And if you don't know what those are, again, I've referenced Anking's entire Anki video playlist. It's absolutely amazing, and it's in the description below. But this is how I did most of my studying for the organ blocks. And again, I would use like Born to Beyond and Pathoma and Sketchy for any micro or pathology or any other stuff. And then I would go on and I would do any additional Anki cards for the lectures that Anki cards don't cover. So professors, again, like I said, they might have really minute details that aren't really board testable, but they will show up on your in-house exam. So I would definitely go ahead and make a little like additional Anki cards. And honestly, another really good Anking video that he had put out was how to make effective cards and how to do it in an efficient manner. I watched that video and it was a game changer for me because I was making Anki cards during undergrad just to kind of get acquainted to it, and I was doing it in the most inefficient way possible. So again, I really, really can't stress this enough. If you want to use Anki for medical school, definitely check out all of Anking's stuff and check out the Anking deck. Watching Boards and Beyond, Sketchy, and Pathoma videos, that depends on the subject. Again, like I said before, I can't stress it enough. Pathoma is the gold standard for pathology, especially on the USMLE and Comlex. Comlex is the DO board equivalent for the MD USMLE. But both of them have pathology on them, and pathoma is absolutely critical for that, in my opinion. And again, I would use the hierarchical tag-ons. So what are the hierarchical tag-ons? So I'm going to give you a little version. So here's my Anki. And here you can actually see my review heat map. I was not very efficient during summer because of research, but obviously I've been picking that back up now that we are back in the swing of school. And you can actually see I have my class decks. I have my OMM decks since I am a DO student. I have the Turn Up to OMT deck. That's a great deck that you can use. I've been using it for my in-house exams. Right now I have most of them suspended because we haven't had our first OMM lecture or first OMM exam yet. But once we get up to that point, I'm going to start getting these unsuspended again. And then for step one and step two in Comlex, I am using the Anking step one deck, and I will be using the Anking step two deck. I have found on Reddit this first aid 2020 rapid review. It's really good. I like it so far. I've been using it. Right now I have it unsuspended because I haven't really gotten into any first aid topics. And right now it's actually showing me tomorrow, what would be tomorrow's stuff because it's really late at night. But this is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, these 304 cards. And then obviously law and ethics shows up on the exam as well on step one and Comlex one. So I do have turn up to law and ethics. And all of these you can find on the Medical School Anki subreddit. And I will link the description to them below. Link the give you the links to them in the description below. But this is what I mean by hierarchical tags. So as you can see, we've got a ton of these decks, right? So there's just so many to choose from. Like, how do I, if I go to the musculoskeletal anatomy, like I obviously don't have these. I've unsuspended and forgot these cards because I don't want to have. I want to redo them. But what I would go with is I would not even look at this. I go straight to this. So as you can see, I was doing a little micro this last block. Um, you can have a ton of different cards here. So what you want to do is you want to go into these hierarchical tags and you're going to want to say, okay, we are learning pathology. And I've noticed that pathology chapter 3, neoplasia, which is anything to do with cancer, these 4 videos in the chapter 3 ones that Dr. Satar have put out, I love them. So I'm going to pull out those decks, right? Or you can go ahead and say, okay, in hemostasis, the only thing that we really are covering is thrombosis. So you go in and you can actually find all of the ones here. So, any cards that you want for thrombosis, they're probably going to be here. I usually do Control A and Control J. That's the unsuspend or suspend hotkey, and then Control A obviously selects all in this deck. This is absolutely amazing way to find it. Also, you can also just go in and say, okay, all the ones in step one, put a quotation mark and say I want to know, I don't know, let's say pneumonia, right? I want to know everything about pneumonia. There's a ton of pneumonia, right? I also definitely misspelled it, but it doesn't matter. So, this card too, but the thing is that you're gonna want to do this, and you can then just unsuspend and suspend the card, or you can also just kind of look them up. So that's another way that I've done it. But again, this is a great way to do it. These will probably look a little different for you because now step two and step one cards have been kind of integrated with the 10th version of these decks. So I would definitely go ahead and do that. And obviously always sync your cards so that you make sure that they're all good. Best textbooks. My school actually provided all of us with the online versions of each textbook. It was great because they saved us a ton of money with that. I never read the text. I'm gonna be honest. I've never read a textbook in medical school other than like looking for question banks. So I'm actually going to talk about question banks in a little bit. But the best textbooks, in my opinion, I have actually opened a couple of them, mostly for anatomy and neuroanatomy. And then I'll just kind of screenshot whatever that little page is, and then just image occlusion all of the little tags for each of the cadaver parts or the body parts on the cadaver images. For physiology, I loved Goyton and Hall. I'm pretty sure I'm probably mispronouncing that, but their Goyton and Hall Physio Review or Costanzo Physiology. Linda Costanzo is master in physiology. I don't know how else to put it. I absolutely loved actually all of her practice questions, and I actually did use a couple of the kind of like clinical boxes, I think they were called, or whatever they were called in Costanzo. They were actually really good. And for biochem, I used Panini. Panini Biochem was pretty cool, but I also never really read it other than like just looking up like random stuff that might show up on my biochem lectures in first year. What about QBanks? Okay, for me, practice questions are key. And I always saw that it was a positive correlation with the amount of practice questions I did were the key to my success and how I did on our in-house exams. Also, obviously, doing practice questions helps you apply the knowledge that you have before any exam. Also, we had a ton of tutoring help, which was super helpful during first year, just kind of give us acclimated to medical education. So any and all tutoring questions that you can get your hands on from upperclassmen or your tutors, definitely do those because they are absolutely amazing resource, at least at my school. Also, if your professor provides you practice questions, I would definitely utilize that because you get an idea of how they word questions and how they're going to structure them. Do they like to have those little trickier questions? Maybe they like a second or third order kind of questioning more than a first order, just kind of rote memorization question. But this is also contingent on if your school just uses an MBME style questioning, then I would just use textbooks or other paid Q banks, which I'm going to talk about later. As far as medical textbooks with Q banks or practice questions, this isn't really a textbook. It's the University of Michigan's website for their Blue Anatomy or whatever they call it. I can't remember. But this is an absolutely amazing resource. It's I Other than just typing in University of Michigan anatomy website, you're gonna find all of those. It's a great resource. They have quizzes and everything. As far as the textbooks, Moore's Clinically Oriented Anatomy, this one had so many good questions that would actually be written questions about the anatomy. Like, someone comes in, they've got a giant gash or something, this muscle is injured. What is the innervation of that muscle? That would be an example of the questions that you'd probably find in Moore's Clinical Oriented Anatomy. You will have written exam questions over the anatomy. It won't just be on the practical. That was something that I obviously did anticipate, but I didn't anticipate how in detail that they can get. And Moore's definitely helped me orient myself with that. As far as physio goes, I definitely use Costanzo. I definitely misspelled that, by the way. My bad on that. Physiology or BRS Physiology. BRS Physiology was also a good textbook. I never read it, but the questions were really good. For pathology, definitely use Robbins' review of pathology. This is a big, especially if your professors use Robbins, which I'm assuming they probably do because my professors religiously, all of the pathology professors and clinical faculty that we have use Robbins religiously, and it also lines up kind of nicely with Pathoma. The real bread and butter and high yield Q banks are usually paid for. I know, kind of a bummer. The exception for me personally was Robin's Path review that we talked about before, and Moore's clinical oriented anatomy. USMLE RX. This is like straight out of first aid. I've been using it during M1 and now into M2, and I actually really love it. It has been a good resource, but a lot of their questions are kind of straightforward, so I usually pick medium to medium hard questions or hard questions just to kind of get a more board style and more in-house exam style because second year we've already had three exams now, and all of them are pretty standard board style kind of questioning now. They have kind of just let off the training wheels, if you will, and just went full on the wall with the board style questioning on our in-house exams, which I'm not complaining about. That's actually really nice. Amboss, I have not used it personally yet. I do plan on it. They have an Anking add-on, and it's great for integration into your Ankinging, and especially the Anking pre-made deck. Amboss, everyone says that it's like the second best. Obviously, UWorld is going to be the best. If you are using UWorld for the MCAT, I kudos to you because that is what helped me on the MCAT the most was UWorld. It is by far the best for the MCAT, and the same is true for the USMLE and Comlex stuff, which I actually did not know until our school bought it. I am at a DO school, but we got a UWorld subscription for step one and for Comlex one. They now have OMM stuff. So TrueLearn is where you're going to find most of the board style OMM questions. I've heard the Comlex is more trickier and it's written a great deal differently than USMLE step one is. But TrueLearn OMM, not really the greatest, but it's obviously just it's a decent source for OMM practice questions that shows up on Comlex. So I'm using it. It's okay. It's about the best we have so far. But once UWorld gets even more questioning for OMM, I'm obviously going to use those more. Another just aside, kind of excuse me, kind of going about concluding this video, don't fall behind on your Anki reviews. That's probably the best advice I can give to anybody that wants to start Anki or is doing Anki. It just hurts your memorization and your retention of the material, which you're going to really need when you go into your dedicated study time for boards. And again, full disclaimer, I'm a second year right now, so I don't know all that I'm talking about. This is what my third year mentors have been telling me. And I trust their advice because they have not failed me yet. So uh, make time for yourself. It really is a grueling, hard, and it's really lonely at times being a medical student. I know the memes, oh, the poor, tired, cranky med student, but mental health is crucial. It really is. Don't let yourself fall victim to burnout because burnout is very real. It's very real, and you really have to recognize it when it comes. And I just want everyone to know that everybody will fail at least one exam in medical school. It is almost a rite of passage, in my opinion. I have personally failed 2 exams, and I am not happy about it, but it is what it is, and I've bounced back from both and still managed to get good scores in each block by getting really good with recognizing my pitfalls in studying and what I didn't do well and what I did do well, and just kind of working on that. It's a process of trial and error, figuring out what you learn best with. I just want you to know that what you do in undergrad will probably not translate well at all in medical school. It is just the honest truth. It's just how it goes. The amount of material that you have in undergrad does not, it pales in comparison to the amount of material that you will go through in medical school. I mean, I took a semester of immunology as a senior in undergrad, and we blew through that entire semester of material in 2 weeks in medical school, which is crazy to me. And it may almost seem unbelievable to you, but I promise you that is actually the truth. It is actually wild how much we go through on a given week, especially when we're in a block and it's full swing on the block. And when I mean block, it's like an organ block. It just really depends on how your school structures your preclinical years. But if you made it to medical school, you deserve to be here. That is an absolute fact. Nobody can take that away from you. Uh, I think the overall graduation rate for medical schools in America, MD and DO, are like 95, 96%. Obviously, there are things that will happen. Maybe you have to take a leave of absence for whatever family issues you have, and that's okay. But the furthest thing from the truth is that you have to put medical school above all else. No, you must put yourself first. That is my honest opinion, and that's how I've been going about it. And the fact that I've been making time for my own mental health has really helped me curb my burnout. Burnout will come to get you eventually. This is just such a grueling experience. I don't know how else to explain medical school other than the fact that it is literally drinking from a fire hose, like that age-old expression that everyone uses. But understand that it will control most of your life. And for the next 4 years, you will be basically a spouse to medical school, and it will be your marriage. You are now married to medicine. That is just how I view it. And I know some people may have a different viewpoint of that, but it is a full-time job, 40 hours a week minimum, and you will have ample overtime, meaning that you will definitely go over that 40 hours a week at any given moment. Honestly, if I was to guess, I'm probably averaging around 60 hours a week of studying. But again, I don't study the most efficiently. That's just how it's been working for me, and it's been working so far. And I've obviously been trying to find ways to do it a little more efficiently. But it's always going to have its absolute time sink. It's just going to take every aspect of your life. You're going to have to tell people, I can't come to this, I can't come to that, I can't come to this. But if it's a big event and you do have a post exam weekend, why not? Take a little bit, take a little time for yourself, see your family, whatnot, see your friends. It's also nice to go out, have a nice drink, have a good little lunch with somebody. It doesn't always have to be in your room or on campus studying. Just take pride in being here and enjoy it. Really, just try to enjoy it. There's a lot of BS that can go on. You may feel like your medical school is like just kind of out to get you. Everybody feels like that, but I promise they brought you there. They want you to succeed. It would look bad on the school if all of the students were not succeeding, right? So that's how I see it, but obviously don't fall victim to like the notion that like you have to do medical school 24/7 and that's it. Just recognize that yes, it is going to take up like 90 to 95% of your time, but make sure to take that 5 to 10% of time that you have left for yourself. That's the biggest thing. And with that, folks, I really do appreciate you guys sitting in this video. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you can, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.